So it finally happened. Xbox actually bought Activision, Blizzard, and King. Literally $68.7 billion. And I've seen a lot of people round this number up to 69 billion, the funny number. To put into perspective, that's literally $300 million away from 69 billion. That's how big this deal is. This deal can easily be the best thing to happen to gaming or the absolute worst thing ever. And I don't exactly know how to feel about it, but let's dig into it a little bit deeper. Let's go ahead and just check out what Microsoft now owns. So this is what Xbox it originally is, which is 343 Industries. They make Halo, Minecraft, which is Mojang, and then they own like Rare. And I'm not sure about all of these other studios. Last year, I'm pretty sure they bought Bethesda, or is this 2 years ago? I'm not exactly sure. But Bethesda obviously makes these games, Starfield, Elder Scrolls, and Fallout. ID Studios, the people who make Doom. Arcane, those who make Dishonored and Redfall. So they mostly are known for making Dishonored. That's about it for who's like real big. Now, Microsoft owns Activision. Now this is a huge publisher, but obviously their biggest game is Call of Duty, and that's obvious. I'm not even a very big Call of Duty gamer, and I think it's really funny with Call of Duty that Microsoft, you know, the one who makes Halo, back in the day there used to be a huge war about, you know, is Halo better than Call of Duty and that kind of stuff, and Call of Duty has honestly won that war over time. Now you look at it and Microsoft owns both of them. But they also own a few other studios now. Apparently MLG Esports, I don't know what MLG really does nowadays. Studios for making Call of Duty Mobile, and Call of Duty Mobile makes a lot of money. Microsoft now owns Blizzard. Now this is one that applies to me more. I do play Overwatch, and I don't know, one of these studios probably makes Overwatch, but now own Overwatch. They own Diablo, World of Warcraft, Diablo Immortal, which is a mobile game that makes a ton of money for Blizzard, Hearthstone, which I don't think is that popular anymore. And now they also own King, which is another mobile game developer. King is mostly known for Candy Crush, honestly. Like, what else does King really make? Now Microsoft owns a lot of stuff. And, you know, the first and obvious thing, this could be like a monopoly. You know, they own a lot of things in game development. However, I would like to make an argument that this isn't as bad as we might think. And that's probably why it got passed through all of the legal stuff, that this wasn't a monopoly. Because honestly, if we look at what Sony owns, for example, they own Bungie now, which makes Destiny, Guerrilla Games, which makes Horizon Zero Dawn and stuff like that, Insomniac Games, which make the Spider-Man games, which do extremely well on PlayStation, Naughty Dog, which makes Last of Us and Uncharted, those type of games. I think they're working on another big game soon. Sony over the years has released a ton of like exclusive games that honestly over time we can see how many games that Sony has exclusive compared to Microsoft and even Nintendo. And Sony has tons of IPs that are just exclusive to them. Also, comparing this whole thing to, if you want to put in perspective what Microsoft owns here versus say what Nintendo owns too, Nintendo has made such a strong first party list of games that they're in a league of their own nowadays. But let's go and check out this. So they own, like, Nintendo has Animal Crossing, Kirby, Mario, freaking Mario, guys. I mean, Metroid, which I think is kind of niche, but it's a good set of games. Pokemon, the biggest grossing media franchise in the world. Splatoon, Star Fox, which has kind of been a dead franchise for a while. Super Smash Bros. I love Super Smash Bros. That's literally the reason I got a Switch. Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. I mean, those games are doing great. Nowadays, Tears of the Kingdom is probably up for Game of the Year as well. Before this acquisition, what did Xbox really own? They have Halo and they have like Forza. Halo hasn't been doing good for a long time, probably since Halo Reach in like 2011 or whenever that game came out. I don't understand who really plays racing games. Rare makes Sea of Thieves, which could definitely be a pretty big game. I think them getting this acquisition is only really making Microsoft even with the other companies. Now, you could argue against that, and I think that's completely valid. This is a big acquisition, the biggest acquisition in gaming ever. At the same time, I don't think this is really like going to be an insane amount for Microsoft to own. But also, companies like Activision and Blizzard, and I don't know that much about King, honestly. I don't play Candy Crush. I don't think I ever will. Haven't really been putting out like really good games in a while. Let me just show you an example. This is a game I play consistently. Overwatch 2. this is the perception of basically Blizzard as a whole. So the entire studios over there, a lot of people aren't happy with Blizzard. They've been heavily monetizing their games. It isn't like only Overwatch 2 how they've handled this game, but also games like Diablo 4. Like they launched that game, it did well when it started, and then honestly people aren't playing it anymore. And I don't know exactly what to say about that. These games aren't doing that well long term, and I feel like a lot of the creativity has been lost over at Blizzard. Part of me fears that these companies have really been waiting for an acquisition over time, and they've been trying to make as much money as possible. And I feel like that's sucked the soul out of the games. They've been trying to heavily monetize them by going to like free to play models with like Overwatch 2. And I kind of wonder, and if we go back to Xbox's post here, this was posted by Phil Spencer, the CEO of Microsoft, because honestly, Phil Spencer has at least a very nice rapport. And if we just look at his language here, he says, "We love gaming. We love playing games. We love creating games. We firsthand know how much gaming means to all of us as individuals, collectively, and as a community. And today, we officially welcome Activision Blizzard and their teams to Xbox." I don't know, just to be like that nice about it, even though you just dropped $69 billion on this, already kind of saying something. It's not being all PR here or anything like that. And if you guys have seen Phil Spencer talk about things, he's been very, I guess you could say, enthusiastic, excited. I don't know what to say. It's just a really fun opportunity. He's a more inspiring CEO than I've seen in a while. And he said he's long admired the work of Activision Blizzard and King and the impact they've had on gaming. Honestly, just the way that Phil Spencer talks and some of the ways that Xbox has approached like exclusivity on their consoles, and not locking their games to a specific platform, making you buy that platform and stay on that platform. At the same time, that has been part of Xbox's detriment, obviously, because, Xbox sales are just falling behind Sony sales and quite a bit and have been for quite a while. But we can only really see that in practice. Let's see how that plays out in the coming years. Is Xbox going to hold to that standard that they're setting? But also another thing that a lot of companies like Sony and Nintendo probably would never do is something like Xbox Game Pass. Pretty interesting service, and probably the best thing that Xbox has going for it right now. Obviously, Xbox console sales, not that good, but this is a great service. $10 a month, and you get access to a ton of different games. Forza, Starfield, those are the main games. I don't know, there's just tons of games. I mean, there's like hundreds of games. And when it comes down to it, that $10 a month kind of gets offset in the price. So like, say for example, you were to buy one AAA game every 3 months. So that's like $60, so $20 a month at that point. Or you could just get Game Pass. If on average you're to buy 4 AAA games a year, that's still going to cost more than just paying for Game Pass. And that makes Game Pass an impressive value, especially with the amount of variety that you get to choose from. I mean, you could really realistically never run out of games to play with Game Pass, and that's probably the best part about it. And I'm thinking about getting it at some point here, because honestly, for me, testing games for the channel, even at that point, just paying for a Game Pass subscription. But it's like, Game Pass is great and has great value, great variety of games, but it does have some clear downsides. I think the biggest thing is that you don't own anything in Game Pass. And this is already a scary thing with, services like Steam. I'll just show Overwatch 2. Even today, most games are like free to play. Do we really own anything with that? And like, if you buy a game, you don't own it. You don't own any rights to really have it. So if you just give your money to Xbox to play their games, what happens when a game gets cycled out? Do you just not have access to that game again? Or what? I've seen games go on and off of Game Pass. It's like not always super consistent. What if you bought Game Pass specifically for that game and you just don't have access to it anymore? And that's a major downside. You don't own anything with Game Pass. And then what happens years and years into the future? So obviously we've seen things. So Xbox says, they're going to not make like Call of Duty and stuff like exclusive to Xbox consoles. That's a good sign for right now, but I think what they said is that it was going to be 10 years and that they keep publishing Call of Duty on other platforms. And I think they've probably done other exclusivity things because of that. This acquisition that's going on here is going to be lasting years and years into the future, more than 10 years. So what happens at that point in time? time. So would Xbox Game Pass be the only way that you could get those certain games? Could all of these things turn into exclusive deals? And then that means that you're at the mercy of a subscription model that you don't own any games on 10 years into the future. Like, down the line, are we going to own anything? However, at this current moment in time, this like Game Pass is a great deal. And honestly, it's the best deal you can get in gaming. $10 a month for all of this. In total, that does give me some hope that Xbox is somewhat consumer focused with their CEO, actually caring about, or at least being very personable to real people. He's not like the old CEO of Activision and Blizzard. Their old CEO's name is Bobby Kotick. But this guy's going to be gone at the beginning of January in 2024. These companies like Activision, Blizzard and stuff, hopefully they'll be more free with their business decisions and with their creativity in their games, and hopefully we'll see less situations like we've seen with Overwatch 2. We'll see how it progresses over time, and if Xbox becomes a threat to Sony and Nintendo or something. I don't think that'd be a threat to Nintendo, but if they're more of a threat to Sony, then that might change how Sony starts making games and all that kind of stuff. This acquisition is definitely going to shake up the market, and I'm just hoping that as a result of this, we get better games. I honestly don't think this acquisition was a bad thing, but it does have its downsides, especially for the long-term future. I'm not sure if I like the idea of not owning anything with Game Pass, even though it's the best service for gaming right now. The biggest deal in gaming history, $69 billion. Nice. Let me know what you guys think about this. The best and worst thing that's ever happened to gaming ever. Worst thing because I don't know where it's going to go. All right, that's been it for me. I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace.